everybody think Chauncey is a guilty man. Let's make him the face of all things bad. Let's go ahead and blame him for every single action that has transpired in all of these charges. You have three major mob families involved in this whole conspiracy. But yet, not one of us has heard anything about the games, how they going down, how they being presented, who's all at fault, how's it gonna play out. All they showing us is black athletes, and nobody has anything to say about it. That's alarming. That's extremely alarming. So without further ado, hi, I'm Carcino. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No one knows Carcino and none of these.
There's so much going on in the world, and I'm just giving my 2 cents on it. Go in and do a raid at someone's house, but you don't have an arrest warrant for them.
Portland Trailblazers head coach and Billups was arraigned in a New York federal courtroom on money laundering conspiracy and wire fraud conspiracy charges, both of which carry a maximum punishment of 20 years in prison. Aaron Katersky is on the scene. He has more from New York.
It was striking to see Chauncey Billups, NBA Hall of Famer, Finals MVP, sharing a courtroom and a defense table with purported mobsters and other alleged criminals who federal prosecutors said rigged poker games and defrauded victims out of more than $7 million by putting X-ray technology on the card tables and cameras in the shuffling machines. Billups, as you say, pleaded not guilty. He walked out of here on a $5 million bond secured by a house that he has in Colorado. His wife and family were here with him to help co-sign the bond, and he walked out, gray suit, white shirt, and pocket square, did not make any statements. Neither did his attorney, but he's going to have to be back here in March as he remains on unpaid suspension from the NBA.
Aaron Katersky reporting. Ryan Smith joining us now, ESPN legal analyst. Ryan, what role has the government alleged Billups played in this whole poker scheme?
So they're essentially calling him the face card. And when you think about it, they have this high-stakes poker game. The people involved, according to the government, are trying to get these high-net-worth individuals to come. What's a good way to come? Hey, we got a Hall of Fame NBA guy, Chauncey Billups, here. That's why he's the face card. He's the guy who helps bring in, at least according to prosecutors, the victims who they then bilk in these rigged poker games. But that also makes it very interesting as to whether or not he was involved in the scheme, because part of his defense could be, hey, I'm just here playing. I wasn't someone who was in the scheme. But that's the way they're positioning it. He's the face card that brings in the victims so that they could be bilked in the scheme.
The severity of these charges is enormous. Who's representing Chauncey Billups, and what defense can they muster?
He's got some high-powered lawyers. One of his lawyers is Mark McCaskey, and that's the lawyer that represented President Trump in a lot of his New York investigations that involved real estate companies and charities. He's also he's the son of the former Attorney General. So this is a very high-powered lawyer who is used to big-time cases. And when you have a case like this, 31 defendants, you're one of them. I think it helps to have a well-established, very skilled lawyer like McCaskey is. Now, in terms of defenses, it ends up being interesting. Again, it's early days, so he's going to now get discovery and things like that and see what the government has against him. But one way he could go is to essentially say, I am not a part of the conspiracy. It's like saying I was present, but I didn't participate. So how does that work? They have to be able to prove that he had knowledge of the conspiracy, that he had intent to defraud people, that he was part of the scheme. But if he just showed up to play cards and they can't prove that he was a part of that, there's not messages or all different kinds of communications about how the scheme works, then he might be able to say, I had nothing to do with this. I just showed up, here I am, and I'm playing. And so that might be a place where he lies in terms of making his defense. But again, it's going to be helpful for him and his defense team to get documents from the government to see what they have on him so they can formulate that defense.
What's the possibility of plea deals for those involved in this?
There's a lot of possibility for plea deals in this. In fact, the government's already stepped out and said, hey, we're having discussions with a lot of the defendants. We hope to resolve a lot of these cases before trial. But plea deals are very tricky. We don't know if they're having these discussions with, say, Chauncey Billups or other of the people that we know in this case. But they're tricky because a lot of times when you start having negotiations or discussions with one group of people, and you got 31 defendants here, the people who come in later, they don't always get the best deal.
Right.
People who come in earlier, they might get a more favorable circumstance. And then you have to worry about, what are they saying about me? So the plea deal discussions might be interesting here. Again, they're not saying they're having them directly. They're saying they're having discussions. But I wouldn't be surprised if this case ends with some plea deals. And I know prosecutors are trying to resolve some of these cases with some of these defendants.
Now, there we go. As you can see, this thing with Chauncey Billups will never go to trial. I don't think it should go to trial, and I believe Chauncey Billups is innocent. Yes, sir. So now we're looking at a scenario in a situation where you see corruption is at an all-time high. Everybody's going to want a piece of somebody's hide. And to make a black man the face of a mob criminal enterprise does not make any sense. Because you're looking at 3 different charges for, if you're looking at this realistically, it's 3 different charges. I mean, 2 different charges, really. They got him with, on one side, of providing information that was going to yeah, when you're providing information that's going to benefit, like he's the coach of the Trailblazers, and he's giving information on players to help out the mobsters. Now, that's where there is a problem in the communication pipeline. You feel me? That's when there's a major communicational flaw. Just like I thought, they screwed the Pistons out the game. So now the Pistons have lost. The streak is over. It's 114-117. They had it where Cade could I actually bet the under, so we good there. And I think we just got it by 0.5 point. Yeah, it was pretty crazy at that point. The undercash, yes, that's why I bet it. I knew that. That's why you can't mess with these tournament games because they mess everything up. Now, if they were really serious and they want to crack down on corruption, what is this? You just witnessed the corruption. You just witnessed it every night. So if this was about sports corruption and you want to clean the game up, you need to clean this crap up. That's why I was like, man, who cares about this tournament cup crap? I saw so much corruption in that game. I'd have called everybody in there. Now, do I think he's going to take a plea deal? Absolutely. Down the road, he's going to take a plea deal. And the reason I believe he's going to take a plea deal is because one of the main charges, he's not going to take a plea in that. He's going to help tell them whatever he knows about stuff he ain't got nothing to do about just saying his involvement or non-involvement. Mainly it's because of Chauncey Billups. We know Chauncey Billups. Our family has known Chauncey Billups. My cousin's been around Chauncey Billups. Like I said, we call him Uno. That's all we know him as, really, is Uno. And Uno and the way he carried himself, the way he moved, everything he did was throughout rules, being a constant professional. This man was up for president job, a general manager job of an NBA team. You know, it's sad when they put people in these boxes, right? And they say, hey, this is what we think you should do. This is the direction we think you should go down or towards. They start to bend the rules, right? Now, do I know mobsters? Yeah, I do. I know Armenian mobsters, Bulgarian mobsters. I know them all. Okay, know a lot of them. But if the feds call, I don't know none of them. So the thing is that a lot of these dudes now are rats. Rats, ratatouille, rat-tat-tatty, tat-tat-tatty. And they claim they got this code and honor. But believe me, they rat on anybody in a second. All these guys that they talk about, rats and all that, they be the same as them, don't they? They be the same. They be in the mob that they talking about. These the people who took the oath and all that crap. Then they be talking about, they be worried about the civilians. So here it is, a black man who ain't take no mob oath. Chauncey Billups ain't pricking no fingers. So there's no way he's touching machines. He's getting these cards that glow in the dark with lights. It's nonsense. And they know it. But you want to highlight him because he's high profile or a former NBA player. So let's highlight him and never show any of the mob figures. So what are we really doing here? What are we really doing here? Come on. Chauncey Billups made $107 million throughout his 17-year career, right? The Blazers was paying him what, $4.7 million to be their head coach just for this season. So how did Chauncey Billups get caught up in an illegal sports gambling scheme? Now they could say this, right? Because they all love to say this because that's how they get athletes. They go to these games and they start playing poker. And the narratives always are like this. They can get caught up in a situation where the game doesn't go their way. And what I mean by the game doesn't go their way means that the game is fixed in a way where the player can't win no matter what. And now he owes a bunch of money. And because now he owes this bunch of money, he don't have a way to pay it. So when he don't know how to pay it up, they say, hey, look, come talk to us for a minute. You know, we like you. You're a good guy. Hey, invite your friends to come to the game and, you know, we'll pay you to do this. We'll work off your tab. You know, that's with somebody who you can't do that with Chauncey Billups. Now, that's the way the mobs are going to say, hey, that's what they did. He probably had a tab and he had to work it off. And you got to do something to help him out. Well, here's the thing. If they wanted to sponsor him for games, like say if that's the situation and how it was, with Chauncey Billups, Chauncey was not somebody that you were going to have in that type of a hold. So for him, it would be more of, we're going to use your name to host the games, you know, and you just bring the people in and we're paying you to gamble. It's like paying somebody to advertise a sports gambling site. And you're paying them to pretend like they're gambling online and all this, like with Drake and his stake thing. And he was, oh, Drake just lost $1 million gambling and Drake just did this and this. And they're basically paying you advertisement to be there. Now, if they get caught in a scandal and then they walking Drake down there, they're going to say stake, Drake, and everybody else, right? But they know Chauncey Billups, one, would never be allowed in the history of mankind to be the face of an illegal gambling operation that involves 3 mob families in New York. It just doesn't make any sense. So they know that. He was only in Vegas. So this next thing about him providing information on injuries about players as a coach to bettors, that came out of left field. So the fact that he pled not guilty to that, you got to understand Chauncey Billups' nature. He's not going to do anything like that. That's ridiculous. Well, gambling is a major business. The mob is lucrative. They're never going to have to worry about anybody doing anything, you know, outside of the letter. It's not really something that other people can do about it. You know, that's really the big thing about it. It's like what they really can do about it. You know what I'm saying? It's not a lot they could actually do. And the reason that I say, well, there's not a lot you could really do is because it's not a lot you could really do. At this said point, you're in a catch-22. What are you going to do in this situation? How are you going to excel? There's nowhere to go. I mean, nowhere to go. You are stuck like Chuck. So you got to go through this whole public lynching, modern day lynching rather, of a black man. Perp him out, put his face on the papers, knowing he's not that. The feds know he isn't. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, really, because it's like, what are we talking about here? There's so many people who are what we call making the sacrifice. So when you're like making the sacrifice or making that turn to the next, then you start seeing it play out a lot differently because a lot of these people don't even understand how it's going. Right, the feds investigating the feds. Right, so they're doing the investigation that they want to do, right, to try to control it because, one, a lot of people are probably hitting prop bets that they're seeing that are connected to some NBA players. Right. Notice the baseball players that got caught, you don't hear anything about them. You don't hear nothing about them. Chauncey Billups, in my opinion, and from what I was told from the people that know him, is he was paid to play cards. He don't have any knowledge of anything illegally being done, and he wasn't luring people in so they could steal their money and all that. He was inviting people to come out to the poker games. There was other people who were at these games, but Chauncey ain't throwing their names around. They came out to the event because Chauncey was what they used as the face card. They just used Chauncey and set the games up through him. Now, everybody else is entirely different. Like, I don't think they even have a case with not Malik Beasley, but I'm just saying Malik Beasley, I don't even know, his name ain't really been thrown around like that. But definitely Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, all the rest of these guys like Beasley, nobody came and bothered him. Mm-hmm. He's going to be out of there. Ohtani, the number one Dodgers. This man literally was gambling. Tried to say he can't speak no English. Me no speaker, no English. When they start talking that illegal gambling, then he act like he don't understand the rules. But you see Ohtani suspended? You see the feds come after Ohtani? No. And what he did was way worse. So no, the feds know what they're doing. They not gonna get Chauncey Billups on any of that stuff. So they might as well just slow up. They are way out of line. Yeah, well, that's how it works. Well, when you got when you look at it from those angles, you're going to always be in the dark. None of those people are going to stand out. Mm-hmm. Chauncey is innocent. He's innocent. They're going to find a way to try to make him guilty of something he didn't do. I want to show you something. Blow this up. That's Emmanuel Clace and Luis Ortiz charged with taking bribes to rig pitches for prop bets. Who picture they show? The dark-skinned man, Luis Ortiz, for the Twins. You see this? Where's Emmanuel? Baseball cover they own. Right? Mm-hmm. Well, they said they conspired with the doggone bettors to rig some pitches so that they can throw specific type of pitches instead of strikes so that the bettors could profit from the prop bets. Both pitchers are facing federal charges behind the thing. So they call it wire fraud conspiracy, honest service wire fraud conspiracy, and conspiracy to interfere with sporting contests by bribery. And they call it money laundering conspiracy. So you can add up all of these doggone charges and keep adding them all up, right? That is that. But you're like, why would they do that? They got all this money. Why would these men subject themselves to that if they're making money? Because ego is greater than anything you can ever imagine. Well, they both are dark-skinned people. But what I'm trying to say to you is they went after two players. Do you think these two black players in MLB are the only people that are rigging things for prop bets? Like I said, baseball protect their own. What you think? I thought Emmanuel Clause was white. His name is Emmanuel. How many white Emmanuels do you know? They have always protected their own. Of course. What do you expect them to do? Come on now. We knew about the gambling scandal. The bookie, all of it. They did nothing. Oshani did what everybody else expected him to do. Play dumb. They told him, play dumb, Oshani. You go ahead and you clam up real good now, boy. You clam up. So, two guys from Southern California, they even told the newspaper that they bet regularly with the alleged bookmaking ring that's linked to Ohtani. And his former interpreter came in and made a, statement. They said they saw no alternative in California. Only a half dozen states that prohibit sports betting. Speaking on conditions of autonomy, right? The state laws, they contradict the stereotype of bookies standing on the corner, taking numbers down and all that on a notepad. They got a wage full of cash. The operation is like efficient and businesslike. Right? People got passwords, they got offshore accounts, all of this stuff. They using Venmo. Then they got a guy who they call the agent. And they got a face-to-face meeting with the agent who bring them cash. And he's like, man, this guy seemed to run a good shop. They had a dozen of bookies. And they said, man, this is the best I've ever worked with. These bookies are on point. And they said that those guys independently verified their descriptions matched everything in the betting ring, right? And they said it was late last year when federal authorities raided the San Juan home of Matthew Boyer and allegedly discovered evidence connecting him to sports betting ring that he had received millions of dollars in a bank transfers from Ohtani's account. The federal authorities and the Major League Baseball, they said, we're going to continue to investigate this. They lied. And the interpreter told ESPN that he had amassed huge gambling debts and that Ohtani, his boss and friend, paid them off as a favor. But as the Times reported, that interpreter quickly recanted that story, and now Ohtani now claims the whole thing was a case of theft and fraud on the interpreter's part. So now Ohtani is blaming the interpreter and saying, no, he was doing all the gambling. I didn't do anything. So now they said I have myself never bet on a sporting event or asked someone to bet for me. That's what Ohtani says. And I've never asked anyone to send money to a bookmaker from my bank account. So when he said that, all the arraignments and the experts that came in and talked about the illicit bookmaking and all of this, the contracts, the offshore gambling website, all of the posts, whether it was odd records or whatever, all these weird looking bets, they generated like a flat fee for each customer that signed in, but they didn't handle any of the money that was wagered. So the site provided all the bookies with private pages and all this stuff, and the agents getting 10 to 20% of the losses. That's crazy. And everybody knew about the interpreter, Ohtani, the gambling, and they just didn't care. They didn't care. They said, I didn't think it was a big deal. To me, it was just normal business. Because the bookies, they don't care. They live in they bookies. They didn't know it was going to be massive. They said when you get a new bookie, you don't bet a lot of money right away. You establish a rapport with them over a few months. They say the bettors will then direct to offshore accounts that's require specific login information. Wins and losses are settled at regular intervals. Right? And one main dude that was there, they said, receiving payouts from all these mobile accounts, and they talking about, man, look, you Venmo the random people. So if you don't know them and they random, you just Venmo them. The other betters, you meet with the agent, and you using $1,000 line of credit, and you buying some beers, and you get some cash in an envelope. You spending money like crazy. So in 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court came in and said the gamblers here can use apps to play daily fantasy sports for cash. But betting on games is not allowed, not in the apps, online, in card clubs, or at the tribal casinos. Even VPNs don't help with accessing things like DraftKings and FanDuel. So the offshore sites repeatedly accepted wagers from like California somewhere and crypto, and it's a lot of way the bookies was doing this illegally. Yeah, so when you're holding the line, that's what you're normally holding it for. Sure he did. Sure that guy ripped him off. Sure he didn't see it. Sure he didn't understand. Sure everybody's just going out for themselves. Now, why do you think that guy was shown by himself? Well, it's very clear. It's very clear why they did it in such a way. They did it in such a way because it's quite clear of what they're trying to accomplish. They want to send this person's picture out and show him because he's the darker of the two. He got dreads. They ain't going to say he's Spanish. They're going to say, oh, it's a black guy. The other guy, he's like light skinned, got a short cut hair. No need to show him. This is the guy you want to show. And this is the state they try to keep everyone in. So, yeah, there's a bit of a problem. So if you want to circle back up to the top and you see what's going on with all of the information, Mm-hmm. He said better, Tony. Right. No, they won't do any of that activity. Watch. You won't see any of that materialize. They're gonna have to definitely watch it because it is a massive, massive problem. No, Chauncey's innocent in my opinion. No, that's called corruption, sir. He did not sell the last free throw. That's the NBA and the magnet ball at work. So that's enough of that. It's a fixed game. So if they're really trying to clean things up, they would be trying to clean that up. So I'm out. Deuces.